With Delta in-flight entertainment, you can watch over 1,000 hours of entertainment all for free. Binge watch full seasons of top shows or choose from up to 300 movies, HBO, Showtime, TV, games, and more. Use our screen or yours. Stream on your laptop, iPhone, iPad, or Android.
Coming up on NFL Live, with the first full week of preseason action in the books, we'll tell you which of the rookie quarterbacks are in the best position to start sooner rather than later. And our insider, Dan Graziano, back from a 12-day training camp tour. Dan divulges what he learned as his travels took him out west. We're glad to have you with us for the next 90 minutes. Happy Monday, everybody. Wendy Nix, the man himself, Dan Graziano, back with us after logging many miles. Tim Hasselbeck and Louis Riddick. There are 4 quarterback battles involving rookies in week 1 of the preseason. We talked so much about them leading into the draft, and that has continued. So today, we will look at how each rookie fared in their quarterback debut. We'll start with the Jets, but it was Josh McCown, Tim, who got the nod early.
Yeah, and we didn't see much work from him in this game, but I think, we kind of know who Josh McCown is as a player. I think the Jets have a pretty good feeling as well.
Teddy Bridgewater as well followed Josh McCown. We'll get to Sam Darnold in just a minute.
Yeah, and for Teddy Bridgewater, I thought he looked comfortable. The Teddy Bridgewater that we saw in Minnesota, playing, on time. He was accurate. You're not going to get a guy that's going to overpower you with arm strength, but good decision maker, and I thought he did a nice job.
And finally, the rookie Lewis, who will battle for the spot, Sam Darnold.
Yeah, Wendy, I thought he looked very comfortable in the pocket as far as going through progressions, being able to stay composed, stay on balance, find second receivers, even third receivers at times here, and being a guy who then was still able to show enough mobility and enough ability to throw the ball outside the pocket and really just move the football efficiently down the football field here. You can't see the all 22 of that play right there, but what you saw here, he's getting pressure in his face, he's able to step up in the pocket, keep 2 hands on the football, find that little 7 route and put some nice touch on it. And then here on the touchdown pass, you see him just move up in the pocket here, just draw the defenders enough to make them believe that he could take off and run it and then throw the ball on the run, just like you saw him do numerous times at USC with accuracy, and put it in the perfect spot there for the touchdown grab. So look, Sam Darnold is on his way. We all know it's going to happen. It's just a matter of time before he's the starter. But what a heck of a showing there for his first preseason game. You couldn't have asked for it to be any better than that.
Well, listen, we'll talk a little more about his comments after the game, but the bottom line here is Sam Darnold certainly didn't feel overwhelmed. He didn't appear to be overwhelmed, and in no way, shape, or form did he look like he wasn't ready to play at the next level. However, the question is when. And so with Overreaction Monday, we'll start with this. Sam Darnold is already the face of the Jets franchise. And Louis, since you just took us through that, I'll start with you. Is that an overreaction?
No, it's not an overreaction. Look, they drafted him to be the face of the franchise. And really, with these situations with these young quarterbacks, it's just a matter of time. And I know there's many people who like to jump out there and say, well, they need to sit for a month. They need to sit for half a season. They need to sit for 1 week. They need to do this. They need to do exactly what it is that they earn. And if this kid earns the starting job come week 1, then put him in there. It doesn't matter if you have a veteran who many people like to get behind and say, well, the veteran is playing pretty well and they have the luxury of time. Look, they drafted these guys for a reason. And when we talk about Baker Mayfield, the same way when you're talking about him in comparison to Tyrod Taylor. And this is a guy who ownership has already said they feel as though they have got their guy for the future, for the foreseeable future. And if he continues to play like this, albeit against watered-down defensive schemes that aren't game planning for him, I know that. I get all that. But if he continues to show this kind of maturation and improvement, put him in.
I agree with Lou. It's not an overreaction. He was the face of the franchise when they drafted him. You're right. Yep. With that being said, I think you also look at it and you just watch this showing. You said it really couldn't have gone much better, Lou. And I think that's the key. He actually was making guys around him better. In those clips that Lewis showed, you're seeing him create offense, kind of off schedule. And if you're a team that is looking to, I think, just improve in general. Here's a great example of it. That's a quarterback making a play when the defense had a perfect blitz dialed up on 3rd and long to get to him. And so whether it was this or whether it was the touchdown pass that he throws later, Sam Darnold did things that you want your quarterback to do, and that's get you out of trouble, create offense, and to make the people around you better. He already is the face of the franchise.
Agreed. Not an overreaction. When you think face of the franchise, you think, who do the fans think about when they imagine something about their team, right? This is the guy that Jets fans want to know more about. This is all they want to know. When's he going to play? How is he going to play? Is he going to be the answer? So the Jets know. They moved up to make sure they could get one of these top guys. And they know that their fans need that hope. It's been so long for this franchise since they've had a franchise quarterback. Now, are there going to be lumps? Are there going to be learning curves? Are there going to be growing pains? Of course. But seeing him play, if you're a Jets fan, on Friday night was what you've been waiting for, and you can't wait for more of it.
Listen, a clean sweep, not an overreaction. That Sam Darnold already
what
has
do you think,
us.
Wendy?
I agree.
There you go.
There you go.
Now it's
How about
4
that?
for 4.
At 4 for 4. I think the minute they called his name, that's where we were. We will have more of these other quarterback battles involving the rookies around the league as we go through the show. But let's already look ahead to week 2 preseason, the Jets and the Redskins. And we'll do so because these two teams are holding joint practices. It is hot. It is August. And this is what happens. Tempers flare, and it did so between these two teams. Listen, not the first time for the Redskins. Their last joint practice in 2015 ended with the Texans in a skirmish as well. And Washington cornerback Josh Norman not one bit surprised that we saw the same thing here with the New York Jets.
Wasn't like nobody didn't know that was going to happen in the first place. Have these joint practices, what you expect to happen, you know? Obviously, you guys come out here and try to get some good work, but a couple guys do some things that other guys just don't like, and that's kind of what happens.
That's something that happens when we have joint practices. You know, guys, you're going to protect your teammate at all costs. You know, if you feel like it's a cheap shot, and then, you know, we're going against somebody else in these long practices, and it's going to get chippy. Guys going to want to fight.
You know, you never want to hit guy after the play. You know what I mean? That's disrespectful to all of us. We're all professional athletes. So everybody's going to get hot when somebody does that. So, you know, that's it's always going to cause problems.
Well, maybe we could just re-cue this discussion from last year and the year before and possibly the year before that, because we asked the same questions. Every year, these things are going to happen. You didn't hear a lot of surprise there. Are these joint practices still beneficial, given that this stuff will happen?
Yeah, there's no question that they are. They're beneficial for the players first and foremost, because you do become accustomed to your own schemes, your own player individual tendencies, and you wind up playing the scheme and playing players in practice, and you're not really playing things organically, and that's not good for you, because then when you go against someone else, you get smoked and you look bad, and all of a sudden people are going, well, he looked great in practice. He was a practice all-pro. Why doesn't he look good on the football field against someone else? That's because you never played against anybody else. And for evaluators, you want to see guys react to something that they haven't seen before. It's just the natural way of doing things. What I hate to hear is when players just go, well, it's a joint practice, so this is going to happen. It almost becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Well, that's exactly what
they go in there almost look.
Agree.
I mean, they literally go in there looking for it, and that's so. To me,
wait a second. Wait a second. When you were a player, didn't you have that same mentality?
You know what?
Just say yes.
Honestly, God, when it came to like practices like this, no. Look, believe me, I played in a long time ago in an era where we played on the edge, man. And there's no question I had my share of cheap shots. I
don't think we were going to argue. I think we all.
But I'm just saying, for the joint practice standpoint, like that scrum right there, it's just like
it doesn't help. You're right.
It's just so.
Tim,
I never got into those things.
They become more prevalent.
And listen, but I think the reason that players feel that way is because as long as joint practices have been going on, that's what's happened. What you do is you still go ones versus twos a lot of times. So the starting offense will go against the other team's second-string defense. So that second-string defense has guys that are trying to make a team playing against starters, guys that are all pros. When I was at the Giants, we practiced the Jets. Herm Edwards was the head coach. Oliver Celestin, ripped off Jeremy Shockey's helmet in a fight ensued. I mean, that's what happens in joint practices. And the players are right. If somebody does that to one of your starters, well, what are you going to do? Everyone's going to come to the defense of that player. And so I think what it boils down to is the coaches setting the tone of basically saying, we don't want that. Yep. If you do it, we're going to kick you out of the practice. So the guys that are trying to make the team, they don't want to get kicked out of practice.
Dan really wants to say something.
But that's the whole point, right? These coaches, before the joint practices, they talk to the team and say, don't fight. We don't want
Not
fights.
everybody. Not everybody. Not everybody.
All right.
That's a great point.
It looks like, based on Houston 2 years ago and the Jets now, people should stop going to Richmond. It seems like that's a bad place to have a joint practice, right? I mean, it cast aspersions, but it keeps happening in the same place. It does drive coaches nuts. I think maybe head coaches are involved.
Maybe, but there was not a player there who sounded the least bit surprised.
Guys are definitely going into it assuming that this is going to happen.
Yeah.
I think that, listen, you want to see guys that are competitive. You want to see guys that won't back down. But what you don't want to see is something like that where somebody's helmet gets ripped off and that helmet is getting swung around at somebody. That's nobody. The evaluators don't want it. The coaches don't want it. The players don't want it.
If you really want to kind of shake things up and try and get a coach's attention and make a football team, that's just not the way to do it. Look, if you really want to kind of play a little bit outside of maybe the rules that they set in those kind of joint practices, then just light somebody's you-know-what up in team period. Just do that. Inside the line, light them up. I'm good that way. No, you're not allowed to hit in the NFL. You know that. It's not.
Now,
we're talking about
you're not allowed to hit.
Here's the thing. Jets-Redskins Thursday at 8 Eastern.
They can hit each other there.
They can hit each other then. You can see it right here
light
on ESPN.
them up.
Well, where there is smoke, there is fire, and that was the case for Dolphins quarterback Ryan Tannehill. Take a look. He yells at rookie Kalen Ballage and then kicks him out of the huddle. This is after the running back missed a block that resulted in a sack. And Tannehill, known to be usually relatively reserved, but not in this case. And we showed you before that tempers are flaring. This is the case. Dante Fowler Jr. gets into a skirmish. Jalen Ramsey got into another incident, this time with a member of the media. And the bottom line, each of these players suspended for a week. It's no joke. The reason, violating team rules and conduct unbecoming a Jaguars football player. So Ramsey tweeted this at the Florida Times Union reporter. You know you done messed up, right? If y'all want war, we got some for y'all. And I know the rest of y'all, you know who you are, gonna read this too, so just know. And then he had some other words. He also added, I'm always going to take up for my teammates because I know what type of men and players they are for real. Love my dogs. If you don't like it, oh well. God bless. Again,
God bless.
I had to practice reading those, but I think I did okay.
I love God bless.
God bless. Listen,
I'm coming for you.
Don't get me wrong.
God bless.
God bless. Lewis, listen. The real question is your take on the suspension, because a week at this time of year is significant.
Yeah, it is. It is, but it isn't as far as Jalen Ramsey's ability on the football field and what they know he can do. I mean, really what's unfortunate here, again, is we're talking about things, especially with players of Jalen Ramsey's caliber and even Dante Fowler's caliber, although he has been someone who's dealt with injury during the course of his career. We're talking about things that have nothing to do with how good this football team is going to be, particularly on the defensive side of the ball, and how much of a Super Bowl contender this team really is here. You just wish that guys would not get involved with social media and or with the media itself in terms of getting into a back and forth like this and all of a sudden now having a light shine on them in a way that you don't want it shined on him. Because Jalen is a fantastic player. I understand he's sticking up for his teammates. I understand that he doesn't want people messing around with his football team as far as trying to create controversy. But the controversy was already created when you have one of your teammates who are chasing around another teammate. Then you have a guy like Calais Campbell who's trying to hold him back. It's just... These are the kind of things that just drive me crazy as far as the football team's concerned.
It's like Dan said, I can't stand anything about you. God bless.
Yeah, I'm coming for you, man. You want a war, you get a war. God bless.
It adds
the real issue, the issue of why this is an issue and guys are suspended is because things like that happen pretty much in every training camp. Whether it's in the locker room, whether it's in the weight room, whether it's in the training room, there's typically things like that happen when you're spending so much time with people. You're competing, you're hitting during practice. Guys are saying stuff, guys are joking about stuff. Some guys are sensitive. So things like this will happen. This is not unusual what we're watching. You know, not that it doesn't happen every practice, doesn't happen on every team, but it's really not that unusual, believe it or not. Now, I think what the problem is that Jalen Ramsey can't essentially then attack a reporter for videoing it. I think people need to understand that's the infraction here for Ramsey, and they probably had to follow up with something to include Fowler in it because that's what was being videoed. You know what I mean? I think there's this distinction there that people have to understand, that guys getting into it like that, teams don't suspend you for that.
Right, I would agree.
It's attacking the media afterwards that's a problem.
Those of us who go cover these practices and these workouts, we don't want to be in a position where we feel like we're being menaced or threatened by the players. who have,
and I've
some
seen it
big,
before.
scary dudes.
We've seen this before, if you've ever been.
If the reason Jalen Ramsey is suspended is because his team wanted to make sure he and everyone else knows that he can't be threatening or menacing toward members of the media, then I would say to the Jacksonville Jaguars, thank you for that.
Yeah, I agree with you. Only thing, I want to back up, though, here for a second and say, look, we're normalizing the whole fighting and the whole getting after one another, whether it be with your own teammates or whether it be doing joint practices. We're doing too much normalizing of this kind of behavior and saying, look, this is just a part of football. Yeah, the game is physical. The game is rough. And you're right. We said about it off camera. Look, I tried to play the game right up to the edge and would cross the edge when we were playing against the opponent and it was on Sundays. Okay, because I was playing for my life every Sunday to make sure I was employed the next week. But some of this stuff, when you see guys right there chasing after another teammate, I'm sorry, I didn't see that on my football teams. That wasn't what happened in Cleveland and Oakland. Those weren't the kind of things that were like normal behaviors then. And, as far as the brawls are concerned, I understand that you're going to get chippy. That kind of stuff is going to happen. But full-scale brawls like I remember that one when we went down to the joint practice with the Texans and the Redskins. And I think there was another one that was pretty bad. I think the Cowboys were involved in one with the Rams, maybe it was a year or two ago. That kind of stuff, look, that is not normal. I don't think it's something that we should sit here and really say, hey, this comes with the territory, because I don't believe it does. I believe physical football play does, and I believe injury does. I believe risk comes with playing the game. But this kind of thing, this is a choice. This isn't necessary. And, this kind of thing, actually, quite honestly, it bothers me to see this becoming more and more commonplace.
My point is that it's not new.
No,
this isn't new, and it doesn't skip years. It happens every year, and it's not new.
It's not new, but I would say this to add to Lewis's point. We can't see this in November and December, these things that aren't between the lines and act shocked and surprised and say, oh, this has no place in the game, and how did this happen, and say it's okay now. I mean, we have seen that the past few seasons, some incidents where you think, this is not part of the game. All right, we talked about quarterback battles, rookie quarterback battles in particular, and there is certainly one going on in Cleveland. They had the top pick for which they selected Baker Mayfield, but it was Tyrod Taylor who started early, the veteran quarterback, making his Browns debut.
And I thought that Tyrod played great. That's a great location on a back shoulder fade. He did the things, which, by the way, in the face of pressure on a blitz that they didn't have picked up, Tyrod played the way that I feel like we've seen him play and he hasn't gotten credit for, and that's on time. He's a creator. He's accurate. And I think he can play as a legitimate starter in this league.
Then the man himself, the number 1 overall pick, Baker Mayfield. What'd we see?
I thought we saw maturity that goes well beyond what you would expect to see of a guy who was making his first NFL appearance at the quarterback position. And look, this is something I'm not surprised by it. It's something that I witnessed in person down at the Senior Bowl, especially when you're talking about situational football. And here we see it here in the red zone, which is something that he excelled at in those Senior Bowl practices as well. Being able to stay calm in the pocket, stay on balance, keep 2 hands on the football, protect the football, and continue to work through progressions and find receivers and hit them with accuracy, as you saw right here on this slant. Accuracy and ball placement, as the guy sitting to my right knows, really is what separates the good from the great quarterbacks in the NFL. And I think Baker has qualities that can make him a great player. There's going to be a lot of nuance to his game as far as that he needs to still improve on. And you can pick apart certain things, I'm sure, in that game and say, well, this is a reason why he's not ready, and this is a reason why he's not ready. You can do that to all quarterbacks. I just think this guy is on a rocket ship ride to being the starter there. And I'm here for it. I'm ready to see it.
A rocket ship. When we talked about Sam Darnold, we said Sam Darnold already the face of the Jets franchise. We'll continue here. This time, though, I'll say this. Baker Mayfield was the right pick, the right choice with the number 1 overall pick. Overreaction, not an overreaction, Dan.
It's an overreaction because it's too soon to know. If you believed that before his first preseason game, then there's no reason not to still believe it. But if you didn't believe it, that's not enough to change your mind. So that's why I say overreaction. It may turn out that he was. And as Lewis points out, the lights come on. All we've heard and seen from Brown's practices is, he's clearly the backup. He has a lot to learn. Tyrod Taylor's a starter. The lights come on. He's on primetime TV, and he does this. That says a lot about the young man, and it's a check mark in his favor. But 1 preseason game, not enough to decide this issue.
It's an overreaction for the exact same reasons as Dan. I will say this, as I'm saying it's an overreaction, the plays that Lewis had there, especially the 2 touchdown passes, those are not normal plays. I mean, the first touchdown pass, the the presence in the pocket and the ability to manage it and then deliver the throw that he delivered was really remarkable. It's a special throw. And then the patience on a slant. So many guys want to just hit that third step and get the slant out. And he kind of sat on his back foot, and then an accurate ball where Callaway had 2 chances to catch it. I think that he showed me a lot in his first preseason game, and I see why they like him, but it's still an overreaction.
I'm going to say it's not an overreaction because of this. Look, if the Browns believe that he was worthy and the right pick to be number one, and the Browns are going to surround him with everything to help him be successful, and they believe he's perfect for what they want to do offensively, and that they have the right kind of quarterback room, the right kind of offense, the right kind of team chemistry, the right kind of team build around him, then he is the number one. Then he is the right pick as far as they're concerned, number one overall. Look, his play on the football field is what we are all going to judge him by ultimately as far as whether or not he was worthy as the number one overall pick, considering all the other quarterbacks that were drafted. But I think right now, I'm fine saying he was the right pick for them and he was worthy of being that pick because the Browns believed it, and the Browns are the ones who are going to have to ultimately answer for this.
And if you amended this statement to say the Browns still believe he was the right pick, I think we'd probably have a unanimous vote because they did, and they clearly, after seeing that, likely still do.
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I should have done this years ago.
Disclaimer. Traveling back in time is physically impossible unless you know how to build a functioning time machine. Then by all means, travel 25 years back in time, switch your car insurance to Geico. You could save a bunch of money. While you're there, please prevent your younger self from wearing that sleeveless tuxedo t-shirt, parachute pants, and glitter high tops to your senior prom. And at long last, rectify this horrible crime against nature. Geico is absolved of all liability if you destroy the fabric of time and space.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
5 notable players remain missing in action. And Dan Graziano with us now. Let's just go through these one by one. I'll tell you who, and you tell me the latest and when we might see them. We'll start with Le'Veon Bell and the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Le'Veon Bell, once that July 16th deadline passed, by rule they cannot negotiate a new deal with him as their franchise player until after the season. So there has been and will be no change on this. Last year he held out all the way through the preseason games and then showed up the week before the regular season and played. The expectation all along has been that he will repeat that plan, and that remains the expectation. I imagine we'll see Le'Veon Bell week 1 for the Steelers.
Well, also the case with Aaron Donald. He had issues last year as well. Here we go again with Donald. Also
held out long enough last year that he missed the first game. Look, as soon as this deal is done, he'll report to camp, and there's an expectation that it will get done. I mean, there's some optimism around the Rams these days that it will get done. It's just a great big deal that takes a long time to hammer out. At this point, I think we'll expect to see him at some point before the regular season.
Now, there were reports that Khalil Mack and John Gruden, Dan, have still not spoken. Where does this stand?
Well, this seems a little murkier, and it's interesting because Khalil Mack did not hold out to the extent that Aaron Donald did last year, and this year he is. So, the dialogue between Mack and the Raiders, again, a little tougher to get a handle on that right now. There's some speculation around the league that one of these guys may be waiting for the other to sign first so they can top the deal, and if that's the case, then it could be one right after the other.
Then Earl Thomas has been clear, pay me or trade me. Where do we stand? Very
clear. And the Seahawks' response, which has been silent publicly, is it's been clear as well. They don't want to do either. He has a contract. They expect him to show up. And at this point, there's been no movement on a contract or a potential trade. And we'll see as the season gets closer if they get a little desperate.
And finally, an issue with offset language. The lone rookie remaining unsigned, the Bears' Roquan Smith.
Problem here is teams, and the Bears in particular in this case, trying to put language in rookie contracts that allows them to void guarantees under certain circumstances. Roquan Smith, the rare player who has fought back against this. Similar situation to Joey Bosa and the Chargers 2 years ago. Remember, that holdout went all the way through training camp, ended right before the start of the season as well. So if you're looking for a comparison, that situation could be one.
It is a very good comparison, and like that situation, they're better off when he gets there and gets in camp and gets on the field. Well, 39 yards on his first NFL carry, but now some breaking news from the Giants. This from Jordan Renan, who tweeted this. Saquon Barkley was checked by trainers after this big play. He looked as if he came up just a little bit lame at the end. He was walking around afterwards, but does have his left leg wrapped now. Jordan subsequently tweeted that practice is over and that Saquon Barkley walked off gingerly but no longer had that wrap on. So I believe Pat Shurmur also said we'll have to wait and see when he was asked about this, as he clearly was. So perhaps we will, but nobody wants to see this in any way, shape, or form.
This is Giants fans holding their breath on this one.
Yeah.
All the hopes rest with this young man, and for good reason. Everything we've seen has been spectacular. But if there's an injury with the leg, I mean, Tim pointed out we've seen this guy's legs. That must be a lot of tape,
couple of wraps.
Yeah, a couple of wraps around.
You
it.
just need to know. I mean, is it a calf, a hamstring, a knee, a quad, a groin, a hip flexor? It's like what part of his leg and what is it? Ligament, soft tissue? Yeah, I think we just.
Well, and look, I mean, it's also possible this is no big deal.
Yeah,
well,
hopefully.
You certainly hope so. So I don't get too melodramatic, but it is.
It'd be better
but listen,
if it hadn't
the Redskins just went through a situation with their rookie running back, and so I think the fear is probably only natural for Giants fans seeing what the Redskins fans have gone through this past week.
All right, fair enough. We will continue to monitor this, and Jordan will certainly let us know the latest. We've been looking at quarterback battles involving rookies. We have talked about the Jets. We have talked about the Browns. We now look to the Buffalo Bills. Nathan Peterman was the first man up.
Yeah, and he did a good job. Finds Kelvin Benjamin on the go route, does a nice job of leading him up the field. There's some bad, and kind of alluded to this earlier, behind the running back on the angle route, which leads to the ball getting tipped and picked off. And look, Nathan Peterman, I think that they like him there, obviously. That's why they drafted him. But I just don't think he necessarily projects to really be their starter. And then A.J. McCarron, the other guy that's in the mix there, again, another guy that showed some good things. I thought he played great in his time in Cincinnati and got off to a pretty good start. But Lewis knows this as well. These guys just don't look the same from a physical perspective as what you see when Josh Allen comes into the football game.
And finally, the rookie, again, who's right there in the mix, Josh Allen.
Yeah, look, from an arm talent perspective, and I don't really like to use that word, but it's appropriate here. He is head and shoulders above these other guys. His strength in the pocket, his ability to actually run with the football to pick up first downs, run with the football enough so as to create a more appropriate, or rather a more advantageous throwing lane is unlike the other two. And that throw right there, look, it's special. It is. Now, he had 3 go balls in this game, meaning 3 9 rounds, 3 long, deep shots that he flat out missed that he needs to hit. But there's no question his upside is through the roof. That's why they drafted him.
The 4th rookie quarterback competition taking place in Desert. We won't show you Sam Bradford, but he did play. But take a look at Josh Rosen.
Yeah, and I thought that he did a pretty good job under not great circumstances. And, the guys up front necessarily play great. Lewis has pointed it out. He's basically fielding ground balls for shotgun snaps. But his movement in the pocket was some of the stuff that you saw in college. Just a great example of it here where, just that little bit of movement to make the throw is what you're looking for out of your quarterback.
Yeah, look, he's so smooth and comfortable and always seems so under control. And I think, and look, just to kind of go a little bit further off of Tim's point, he was not put in the best situations to succeed here. And Steve Wilkes kind of alluded to that when they interviewed him, I believe, coming out of the tunnel at halftime. He said, look, we need to protect him a little bit better and kind of help him out so he can really shine. But relative to the circumstances, he did all he could do. It would be nice to see him behind the number 1 offensive line with David Johnson in the game and with his top receivers out there, because I think his stats would look much, much better. I saw some people kind of taking some shots at him, like, look, as far as his stat line was concerned, and going, well, that doesn't look very good. But that means nothing relative to what he was working with. And I think this kid is going to just continue to get better as the preseason goes on, too.
Well, you alluded to the fact that perhaps not the best position for him in certain situations. So I'll say this, Josh Allen and Josh Rosen are in the toughest situations to succeed as rookie quarterbacks. Is this an overreaction or taking it too far, Lewis?
No, that's not an overreaction at all. I think they are both in those kinds of in the situations where it will be tough for them to really justify where they were picked, okay, as far as people wanting instant gratification and wanting the kind of production that comes along with being a number 1 overall pick, or rather the expected kind of production. Look, both of these offensive lines are shaky in Buffalo and Arizona. Arizona guy Carson Palmer absolutely just beat up over the past 2 years down there. You saw some of that, although Josh was working behind a backup offensive line. You saw some of what Carson was facing during his time down there. And they don't have the weaponry on the perimeters at either one of these places that, say, Baker Mayfield will have in Cleveland, or even, a guy like Lamar Jackson. Let's just say if he got into the game, the kind of weapons that Baltimore has put around him to kind of help him succeed. And Sam Darnold, look, right now, I would even say that maybe the protection and maybe the people that they have on the perimeter at the Jets is better than what they have in Arizona and have in Buffalo. So these guys, you just have to be much more patient, and you're going to have to remember context when you're looking at these guys and say, look, they're working with a deck that isn't really stacked in their favor. Simple as that.
Yeah, not an overreaction for me. I agree with Lou on this. And, you know, you look at the supporting cast. You also have to factor in the expectations. Look, I understand the Browns situation. They have not been very good. But any type of improvement, I think people are going to see that as a success. And I think the management of the expectations for these guys. You know, Josh Allen's coming out of Wyoming in a very different kind of situation than he's going to be dealing with in Buffalo. And I think he's going to be forced to play because I think his skill set is just so much better than the other guys at the position. Look, Josh Rosen, I think, is ready to play. And I think he's going to be, but I think he's also going to be forced to play maybe sooner than you would maybe even want him to play because I don't think that Sam Bradford's going to stay healthy. And so I think those things factor into how it's going to be difficult for both of these quarterbacks.
Yeah, I say overreaction because, I mean, you say the Browns haven't been very good. That is an extremely generous description of the Browns'
if they win
past
one
couple
game,
of years.
it'll be an improvement.
they're
the expectations.
And Tim is not known for being extremely generous.
Baker Mayfield joins a team that's been 1-31 the last 2 years, and he's not the starter. So I don't know how he's in an easy situation to succeed as a rookie. I think he's the one who's the most behind the eight ball, but I mean, these are all good points. I just feel like the Browns situation, for some reason, the offseason is like this giant eraser, and people forget sometimes. Like this team is in the all-time deepest hole of any franchise ever, including
You know why that one
get worse.
You know why that's such an interesting case study, and I agree with you as far as looking at the past there. But here's the thing, like, they have some really good players on the offensive side. Their weaponry on the perimeter out, there is no excuse, really, for that team to underachieve in the same way it's underachieved in the past 2 years. If they go 1-15, if they don't win more than 5-6 games, look, I'm just telling you, it ain't on the players.
If they
have good enough players.
If they win 6 games, they might be the most improved team in the whole league.
And it's funny because it's easy to beat them down.
They will be. I think mathematically that's correct.
I'm just telling you, though, look, if you have Jarvis Landry, you have David Njoku, and let's say Josh Gordon comes back and we're all praying that there is no way that this team should not win 7, 8, 9 games. There's just no way.
Well, we'll all find out together.
There's no way.
Says Dan, the voice of reason.
8,
yes.
9?
Hey,
we'll find out together, Dan.
I'm just saying.
Dan Graziano just finished up his training camp tour last week. He has since been sleeping, so that's good because he had seven teams in 12 days. Which is always fun, and you get a chance to really dive into what's going on in each of these camps. We're going to start on the West Coast, okay, with the L.A. Rams, because I believe that's where you started as well. You take us around, tell us what you learned, but let's start with Jared Goff and the Rams.
Yeah, Jared, I had a chance to sit down and interview Jared Goff, during which I learned that he bites his nails. Interesting. I could right all the way down to nothing.
Wow.
We actually bonded over that because I've struggled with that throughout my life, but I'm twice as old as he is. I told him there's hope for him yet. But he said he knows he has to stop. Anyway, regarding Jared Goff, talking to him and his teammates and coaches about the difference between his rookie year and last year, left tackle Andrew Whitworth told me, he said the key for Goff is that he's not the kind of guy who will let his past be his label. And Goff said he's just always been that kind of guy. He's laid back. He's okay with, learning from mistakes and all that kind of thing. He expects to take a larger role in the offense in terms of the responsibility he has for it than he had last year when, he's getting the play call from Sean McVay. As the play. Yeah, I got to go because I got to move on to another camp. I got to go see another team.
As you were.
And apparently that team is out to get me or something. I don't know. I'm going to go see the Chargers in Costa Mesa, which isn't that far from where the Rams were in Irvine. I was able to go back and forth, which is kind of neat. Talked to a bunch of people there, including running back Melvin Gordon, who told me that he thinks this year it's going to be different for him in terms of his ability to deliver on explosive plays. He said the main reason is Mike Pouncey at center. He said this is a true center. Last year they had Matt Slauson, who was a converted guard, and it feels like Pouncey is going to be able to get out on the second level, do some blocking that'll help him with that. His yards per carry is still under 4 for his career. He obviously wants that to come up.
But even though I'm standing over here, I'm going to walk over here now because this is the team I want to talk about. And I'll tell you this. Look, the Chargers are a team who I think can make some noise in the AFC. And there's no question that Melvin Gordon is a wonderful, wonderful talent as far as being able to run inside, outside, catch the ball in the backfield, and break big plays. but it's always about health with this football team, Dan, and it's about keeping those guys up front in particular healthy. When they are healthy, if they can have their full complement of people on the football field, not only is it going to help Melvin Gordon, it's going to help Phillip Rivers, and it's going to help this football team overall make some noise in the AFC. But health has been the thing that has bitten this team over and over and over again. We need to see them stay healthy this year.
And already, Hunter Henry, the young tight end, out for the year with an injury. They're already talking about how to overcome that. Mike Williams, their second-year receiver, first-round pick from last year, said he's getting a lot of red zone work in practice.
He looks good. I'll tell you what, he is a big body who looked spectacular, I thought, from an athletic perspective in that game against Arizona.
So I don't know. I had a problem with a travel agent. I had to get from Southern California to Northern California.
I'm going to come with
by way of Minneapolis. So excuse me, there, Rams guy. I have to go see the Vikings. Beautiful new practice facility they built out there in Eagan, Minnesota. Got a nice tour of it. Very nice, state of the art. You know, they have Bud Grant's office done up like with the old wood paneling from his old office, and he actually apparently comes in there and uses it from time to time. But anyway, that was fun. Also fun to talk to Kirk Cousins, who said that he's working on a couple specific things about his game. He said he needs to be better in the final 2 minutes of the first and second half. That's a point of emphasis for him. And he also told me, he said, I think I need to be a better quarterback off schedule when the play breaks down, right? When he's running around because the play broke down. Although he said he thinks he has been good on bootlegs and, you know, those kinds of plays. So he's hoping to try and take some of that and apply it to his game this year. Young running back Dalvin Cook heading into his second year, coming off injury. No knee brace. Didn't play in that first preseason game, but it's not because they're easing him back in. It's because they see him as their starter and a key to their offense, and they're getting him ready for the season.
Yeah, I like Kirk's assessment of himself. I think it's accurate. It's good news on the Dalvin Cook thing, obviously, with no Jerick McKinnon in there this year. I think the thing that's going to be a challenge and want to be sensitive about it. There's been a lot of change, the passing of their offensive line coach, to move the tight ends coach to be the offensive line coach, to have offensive linemen get injured already, and then just the change, new coordinator, new quarterback, change at running back. So there's going to be, even though they got off to a great start in that first preseason game, there's going to be some storms that they're going to have to weather, some growing pains.
Yeah, Kirk Cousins and offensive coordinator John DeFilippo, both new and getting to know each other, so we'll see how that comes together.
Right. See you later, Dan.
So then, thanks, Tim. I appreciate it. I went from Minneapolis to back to California. Couldn't get enough California. Went to San Francisco. Check in on Jimmy Garoppolo and Kyle Shanahan, who are no longer just getting to know each other. They've known each other all offseason now. And Garoppolo, I had a fun conversation with Garoppolo where he said, this offseason I've gotten to learn the entire offense, understand the entire offense, whereas last year when he got traded there midseason, he had to kind of learn it on the fly. And I said, so this year it's like studying, and last year it was like Cliff Notes, and he said if we were lucky it's Cliff Notes. He said there were literally times where the play would come in during a game from the sideline, and I would say, okay, I don't know what this side has, but I know what this side has, so we're going to run the play to this side. He said that's all out the window. He has a much clearer understanding of the offense, and he thinks that'll help slow the game down for him. John Gruden trying to slow the game down for his quarterback, Derek Carr. Gruden loves this guy. When I had a chance to talk, I said, this guy, how about that? A little homage to our man Gruden. When I had a chance to talk to John, he said, look, it's all about Derek Carr. It's all about running everything through Derek Carr, pumping him up as much as possible so he can be the quarterback I believe he can. They brought in Jordy Nelson at wide receiver to help, bring some professionalism and experience to the wide receiver group. He thinks that'll help Amari Cooper and, of course, Derek Carr by extension. So expect a lot of Derek Carr in that Raiders passing game. I had a chance to go to the Seattle Seahawks camp. Earl Thomas not there, as we all know. The Legion of Boom has kind of dissolved. Cam Chancellor retiring, Richard Sherman back there in San Francisco, and Earl Thomas holding out for a new deal. But they have a young safety named Tedrick Thompson who they're extremely high on, and they really believe he can help be the answer at safety if Earl does not come. Also on the other side, running back Chris Carson really turning heads in spite of Rashad Penny being the number one pick this year for the Seahawks at the same position of running back. So they feel like they have some strength at running back, which really was a position that fell apart for them last year. And then before I had to go back to California one last time, see the Dallas Cowboys. The offensive line looks good. Ezekiel Elliott looks good. They like Dak Prescott. They like their defense. They have no idea who's going to catch the ball in Dallas, and they need the next 3 or 4 weeks to sort all that out. Tavon Austin is there. They like their third-round rookie, Michael Gallup. They know Cole Beasley, what he can do. They can throw it to Ezekiel Elliott more, but they brought in Allen Hurns. They still have Terrence Williams. A lot to sort out there in terms of receivers. They don't know who their tight end's going to be. So the Cowboys this preseason for them is about sorting all those things out and making sure Dak Prescott has enough passing game targets. Right now, they don't know who that's going to be. So then Tuesday night, I flew home, and here I am.
With Delta in-flight entertainment, you can watch over 1,000 hours of entertainment all for free. Binge watch full seasons of top shows or choose from up to 300 movies, HBO, Showtime, TV, games, and more. Use our screen or yours. Stream on your laptop, iPhone, iPad, or Android.
It was last week, though, that we saw the debut of rookie quarterback Sam Darnold, who we've all decided is already the face of this New York Jets franchise. A solid debut. In fact, to quote Louis Riddick, it could not have gone better. Here's the first of two, our AFC East reports with Rich Cimini.
Thanks, Wendy. Coming off his impressive debut against the Falcons, Sam Darnold is in line for more playing time on Thursday against the Redskins. Here in joint practices with the Redskins for the second straight day, he received the majority of the Jets' first-team reps, an indication that he could get the start on Thursday night. Todd Bowles won't reveal his quarterback rotation just yet, but the feeling around the team is that Darnold will get some quality reps against the Redskins. He's impressing every day on the practice field. Things are trending up for Sam Darnold.
This is Mike Rodak with the Bills, where rookie quarterback Josh Allen went 9 for 19 in his preseason debut last Thursday, but it was 2 of his incompletions, which were launched more than 50 yards in the air, which stirred the crowd in that game. Allen's unmistakable arm strength will next be on display Friday in Cleveland, although Coach Sean McDermott has thus far declined to name a starting quarterback for that game. Allen was bumped up to the second-team offense in Monday's practice, but is still part of a 3-way competition with A.J. McCarron and Nathan Peterman. Back to you in the studio, Wendy.
Thank you, gentlemen. A solid debut for Mason Rudolph, the Steelers' third-round pick. He played an entire second half, completed 7 of 12 passes for 101 yards. The rookie led 3 scoring drives, all field goals, while out there with the first team. We welcome in our NFL Nation reporter, Pittsburgh Steelers reporter, Jeremy Fowler. Let's talk first about how Ben Roethlisberger reacted to Mason Rudolph's debut. Jeremy.
Well, Wendy, I asked Big Ben to give me the full scouting report because he had a great vantage point on the sideline Thursday night. He said, what I liked about Rudolph, the moment did not seem too big for him, so he had poise. He was in command of the offense. Roethlisberger said he was making great throws, and he looked like he was having fun doing it. That's really been the theme throughout camp between the rookie and the veteran, exchanging snaps, having fun with drills. It's a loose atmosphere here. And I asked Rudolph how he felt, 101 yards. He said, I did okay, played well, but we need to get the ball in the end zone starting Thursday at Green Bay.
Le'Veon Bell, as expected, Jeremy, remains missing in action. He stays away from camp as he did last year. What's the Steelers' perspective at this point?
Well, their next move is just to get him here, right? They're hoping sooner than later. It'll probably be more like early September for Bell, just in time for week 1. But if things go great this season and they just can't afford to lose, they're all pro back. A transition tag, I'm told, is a real possibility that they'll consider this offseason because Bell, that's a guy that they could sign and trade in that case. It'd be in the $17 to $18 million range for one season, which is less than what the franchise tag would be at almost $21 million. They won't do that, but at least the transition tag gives them options. They could match any offer on the table from another team. Now, they would lose a compensatory pick in that case that they would get if he went to free agency outright, but that's the risk you run sometimes with a great player. And Wendy, we could be doing this all again for a third year between the Steelers and Bell next offseason.
This was last week, last Thursday. Colts safety Shamarko Thomas became the first player ejected under the new helmet rule. This for an illegal hit on Seahawks wide receiver David Moore. This tweet from Ravens safety and former Cardinal Tony Jefferson in response to actually this is another hit with Dixon here. I legit don't understand how they would like for us to tackle. If this is a flag, I am unaware of the proper way. This is Travell Dixon. He too, not ejected, but penalized. You can see the tweet. This was echoed, by the way, really around the league with a lot of questions and a lot of confusion. So just for your sake, here is the description of the rule as it reads. It is a foul if a player lowers his head to initiate and make contact with his helmet against an opponent. Contact does not have to be to an opponent's head or neck area. Lowering the head and initiating contact to an opponent's torso, hips, and lower body also a foul. So far, we've seen 25 total use of helmet or lowering the head to initiate contact penalties called. I suspect this is just the beginning. It is a difficult area. There's been some confusion. And so since it is Overreaction Monday, I'll say this. The NFL should revise the new helmet rule before the start of the season, which is strong, I realize. Is that an overreaction?
It's not an overreaction because from the moment we heard about this rule, it seemed hastily thrown together. And I think the league admits that to a certain extent. It's using this preseason to help educate officials and teams and players on how they want it officiated, right? So, like, if we look at those two plays, I'll bet the first one is out. You don't want to see the Shamarko Thomas hit. That's no good. That's exactly what they want out of the game. The second one looked like his head was up when he hit him, right?
This one right here?
Yeah.
This is ridiculous.
So what we have is officials who've been told throw the flags and then we'll assess. Mm-hmm. So again, here we have preseason games, which everybody's watching more closely than they probably should. And this is what's being worked on with the officials in the league. How do we get this ironed out before the start of the season? There's 3 more weeks of preseason games, 3 more weeks of evaluation before the games start to count. I think it's fair to believe that the league will have a little more clarity on this before the start of the season, and it's not an overreaction to say they should have an open mind in case some of the wording needs to be changed.
See, I actually think it's an overreaction because I think as frustrated as we are looking at some of these things, sharing the frustration that Tony Jefferson has and many other, quite honestly, defensive backs around the league, because I think it's made it harder on them than any other position. Mm-hmm. This is what the league wants, and for good reason. They want players to stop initiating contact with their helmet. Now, I think the people that wrote it have no idea how difficult that is, even if they've had input from people that have played the game. It's hard. In fact, it's nearly impossible. Even the Shamarko Thomas play that we're watching, I don't know. I mean, he doesn't know where the receiver's going. And so, but in saying all of that, the league does not care if they're fining players, ejecting players, if they are removing a play from the game that has been proven to concuss players. Plain and simple. That is what they care about now more than than anything else.
Look, I get the fact that when you hit someone with the top of your helmet, that's got to be outlawed. It's just bad form. It's dangerous to you as the tackler. It's dangerous to the person who you're tackling. There's no question about that. You hit someone with the top of your helmet, you're going to look. If they throw you out of the game, then you deserve to get thrown out of the football game. Okay, that's just the way it is. But I will say this. Okay, there's going to be what they call bang-bang plays where helmets are going to come together that are not necessarily, they're just not, there's no other way to play the football game. Look, you have shoulder pads on that protect right here. Right here. That's what you use to hit somebody. Right connected to that is your head. How are you going to hit somebody with this and not have this make contact with them also?
Not everyone has the Merton Hanks neck.
It's impossible unless you can take your head and kind of supplant it and put it over here to the side. It's impossible. And here's the other thing about that rule that really has me kind of confused here. It doesn't matter if you initiate contact to the torso or head of an opponent. If you hit them in the waist, the thighs, or below the knees with the head, how could, please explain to me how you could tackle someone below the knees and not have your head hit them? Tell me how that could happen. Because I don't think it's, unless, like I said, like I demonstrated one time, unless you can duck walk about a foot off the ground, there's no way your head is not going to be involved.
Tim's point is the most important one. The league wants that hit out of the game, and it's going to continue.
Well, I'll tell you what, then. I'll tell you what you better do. Remove helmets and just don't play with pads, because there's no way.
Like this isn't the last time we're going to.
There's no way.
It is.
You can't do it.
I'm here to say this will be revisited.
And for all you fantasy people, offensive explosion this year. Okay. Count on it.
Anything else you want to weigh in before
Frankie defensive backs.
All right.
That's my new fantasy team name.
Cranky.
Message and data rates may apply.
When did it become okay for men to be lazier, softer, fatter? We need to bring the men of this country back to greatness with Ageless Male Max, a patent-pending formula with an ingredient that helps boost your total testosterone. promoting greater increases in muscle size and twice the reduction of body fat percentage than exercise alone. Plus, an amazing 64% increase in nitric oxide, which can be handy in the gym and in the bedroom. Take your manhood to the max by trying your first 30-day bottle free. Not 10 days, not 15 days, but a full 30-day supply free when you text the word SKILL to 797979. Just pay shipping and handling. Finally, a formula that boosts total testosterone. If your results with Ageless Male Max are too intense, please decrease use. For your free bottle, text SKILL to 797979. Text SKILL to 797979.